I admit my participation freely and without pressure. After all, I was the one who transported the Jews to the camps. Yet what is there to admit? I carried out my orders.
In 1950, with the help of the Nazi underground, Eichmann fled Germany to hide in Argentina. He worked first as a surveyor in a small mountain village. After 2 years, he felt safe enough to bring his wife and 3 sons over from Germany. They eventually moved to Buenos Aires. He worked on a rabbit farm, then as a mechanic at the Argentine Mercedes-Benz plant, and he soon became a foreman and was building a new life. But in the fall of 1959, the Israelis got a tip that Eichmann was living in a poor suburb of Buenos Aires under the name of Ricardo Clement. Using witness testimony in Nazi documents, Hausner began his 2-part mission to convict Eichmann and at the same time to bring a new generation in Israel and the world the full story of the Holocaust.
Mengele became injured while serving in the medical corps and was declared unfit for combat. However, he was promoted to captain and was sent to replace a doctor in Auschwitz. At Auschwitz, Josef Mengele became infamous for his role in deciding which incoming prisoners were sent to work and which were immediately sent to the gas chamber. Nearing the end of World War II, Mengele fled from Auschwitz on January 17, 1945, using the disguise of a regular German infantry. He assumed a low profile and worked as a farmhand near his hometown, Wunsfeld. There were many times where he was close to being caught and shown for whom he truly was, but he was smart and always managed to get himself out of bad situations. Realizing that he was no longer safe in Germany, Mengele headed to Argentina, where he undertook a new identity. After 10 years in Argentina, Mengele moved to Paraguay. There, in 1979, Josef Mengele went for a swim and suffered a stroke. He drowned and was pronounced dead as he appeared on the shore. Although Mengele died, the results of his actions can be seen today. Human rights became globally recognized shortly after World War II. The establishment of the United Nations led to the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. This document proclaimed the fundamental rights and freedoms entitled to all humans. Bioethics, the study of ethical controversies in biological and medical advances, became a fundamental study following the years of World War II. Josef Mengele's work ultimately left a lasting, ameliorative impact.
Josef Gabčík and Jan Kubiš were part of a Czech resistance mission known as Operation Anthropoid, sponsored by the British and exiled Czech governments. A present but largely inactive Czech resistance movement designed the mission to prove itself to the Allies and rally support. The plan also played into Britain's desire to take out a member of Hitler's inner circle and prove that the Nazis weren't infallible. Heydrich was a perfect candidate for assassination due to his rising status in the Nazi Party, his overconfident attitude, and his role as the leader of the Wannsee Conference, where he devised the final solution.
On May 27, 1942, Reinhard Heydrich, the Nazi protector of Prague in the Czechoslovak Republic, was traveling his daily route from his home in the countryside to Prague Castle. In the 4 years since the Germans had invaded Prague, Heydrich felt that he had the Czechs under control, even to the extent that he drove in an open touring car without an escort. As his car passed through a sharp right-hand curve at Hlishovice Junction, Czech resistance member Josef Gabčík stepped in front of Heydrich's car with his submachine gun and pulled the trigger.
At Suicide Villa, Lüneburg, where the wife of William Haw Joyce was later found, Heinrich Himmler bit on a phial of cyanide, identical with this one found in his kit, and died instantly. His unutterable crimes make it hard to speak even of his corpse with restraint. 5 million deaths lie at this man's door. He and his SS represent an evil unparalleled in world history. Buried now in a nameless and dishonored grave, this was Himmler's last killing.
Spring of 1945, the Red Army of the Soviet Union was moving through Berlin. The German army was vastly outnumbered and consisted of exhausted troops, elderly men, and Hitler youth troops. Hitler was by then living in his bunker 50 feet under the Reich Chancellery building in Berlin. Many of the Nazi generals and Inner Circle party members, including Joseph Goebbels, had moved into the bunker. The beginning of the end for Adolf Hitler really began with the bombing of the Chancellery on April 26, 1945. As they continued to march into the center of Berlin, Hitler got more and more worried about the outcome of this war. On April 28th, he heard news that one of his most trusted allies, Heinrich Himmler, had been trying to negotiate a surrender with the Western Allies. Hitler was furious with this betrayal. Late at night on the 28th of April, Hitler dictated his last will and a two-part political statement which basically blamed the Jews for everything that had transpired throughout the war. On midnight of the 28th, Hitler married his longtime girlfriend, Eva Braun. Goebbels and Bormann were there along with other generals to witness the wedding. On April 29, 1945, Hitler was informed that Berlin was lost to the Russians by his top aides, and also that Mussolini had been killed along with his mistress and his body hung upside down in Milan. Early in the morning of April 30th, Hitler gave explicit directions to his personal aide, Otto Gunsch, that both Hitler and Eva's bodies were to be burned upon their deaths. Hitler then said farewell to close allies Martin Bormann, Joseph Goebbels, and Generals Krebs and Bergdorf, as well as other remaining staff. Hitler and Eva went back to their private rooms, and within a few moments, Bormann and Goebbels heard a gunshot. They walked in to find Hitler dead of a gunshot wound to his right temple, and Eva dead from apparent poisoning. What happens next is to be shrouded in the mysteries of history, but the generally accepted version of events is that the bodies were then carried up to the Chancellery garden, soaked in gasoline, and set aflame, while Bormann and Goebbels stood by watching.